We all know the English or Latin alphabet, and some of you may even know others such as the Greek, Cyrillic, Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, Korean, Hebrew, and many more. Although the thing is, only 3 of them are actually alphabets. Welcome to the Milu project. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us back here next week. Yep, it's true. But they're all writing systems. Cultures use writing systems to present and store information. In a writing system, each symbol or glyph represents either a phoneme, consonant, syllable, morpheme, word, or phonetic information. The first step in making your script is to decide what equipment your culture uses to write with, and whether they use paint, cut their letters into a medium, or stamp them. This will determine your stroke size and if it has any variation. It's also important to consider what angle the tool is placed at, as it will give different effects. Now let's look at the difference between these 3 examples of text. The first is the Latin script, the second is Georgian, and the third, Chinese. You'll notice that the Latin script is a lot more angular, whilst the Georgian and Chinese are a lot curvier and flow more. This is because the original scripts were all written using different writing systems, which all had different physical limitations. When writing on paper with ink, you have a lot of choice. Cultures which wrote on paper generally have more cursive glyphs. With leaves, scripts have more curves, as unlike sharp corners, they don't break the leaves. And if your culture carves their writing into rocks, it will be very angular, with few curves. You can be as creative as you like when it comes to where you'd like your writing system to be placed. You could even write it in sand, clay, snow, or even with fires. Now let's examine the different types of writing systems. The first is a Featurals system, in which each glyph encodes phonetical information. A good example of this would be Hangul. Each symbol shows the position of the tongue, lips, or throat. This is particularly useful for sounds the speaker is unfamiliar with, as graphemes in Korean teach you how to pronounce each phoneme. It's important to note though that Featurals systems are very rare in natural languages. Even Hangul is artificial and was created by the emperor to discourage use of Chinese characters. There are also Abjads. Abjads are a writing system that just include the consonants. Vowels are inferred by context. Many languages, like Arabic, Hebrew, and Phoenician, employ Abjads as their mode of writing. Abjads work really well with languages that use consonants as roots. In Phoenician, for example, a system of triconsonantal roots is used, so by omitting the vowels, you create a more interesting script. Abjads, though, can only be used with languages with either very few vowels or a non-concatenative morphological system, like triconsonantal rooting. The next writing system is probably one you already know, the alphabet. An alphabet is a system which has a symbol for every phoneme in the language. They are especially good for languages like English with highly complex phonotactical constraints. Now let's look at Abugidas. An Abugida is a script which assigns each possible syllable pairing a single glyph. They are particularly good for languages that have a CV syllable structure. In an Abugida, vowels are usually marked with diacritics on the consonants. Generally, CVC structures don't fit well into Abugidas. However, I don't see why you couldn't just have each glyph as a consonant-vowel-consonant pairing. When it comes to writing systems, I like to think of Syllabaries as the big brother of Abugidas. In a syllabary, just like an Abugida, each syllable pairing is incorporated into a glyph. However, with a syllabary, instead of just being a modification of the same consonant, each syllable has its own entirely unique glyph. A good example of this in action is Japanese. Its two syllabaries, hiragana and katakana, have evolved to have separate forms for each syllable. So if your Conlang has a small phonemic inventory, a syllabary is a good choice. The final writing system is a logography. This is where each glyph represents a morpheme. Most characters in logographies evolved from pictographic representations of a concept. Logographies go very well with analytical languages, ones with no inflection. And as well as that, logographies are good at condensing information into a small space, although the drawback is they take a very long time to learn. It would probably be a bad idea to use a logography with a synthetic or highly inflected language, because you would end up with really long words. Whichever script you pick, make sure your glyphs are comprised of the same basic shapes, or you run the risk of some characters looking like they don't belong to your writing system. Like with most things in life, creating a writing system has rules called orthography, but luckily they're rules which you get to make. First, you need to determine the writing direction you want to use. You could go from left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top, or you could do something called bostrophodon, which means you change the direction of the writing every line. You also need to consider whether you capitalize your letters and if you use spaces or interpuncts. There are some external factors that you'll need to consider, such as invasion, the variance in manual reproduction, and how your script will change over time. Language is like a suitcase, cultures carry through time, and your writing system will reflect the different changes and external contact it has had. So what will your script be like?